Hello, my name is John Farmer, and my student ID number is 562858. Today, I'm going to talk to you about one of the more pressing issues facing this country and more of a modernized society to which we live in concerning internal security. Today, I'm going to talk about the U.S. Patriot Act. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the history of the act, some of the more significant figures involving this act, and also more or less some of the federal bureaucracies that were created to help protect and govern the legitimacy of this bill. So first, what is the Patriot Act? The Patriot Act basically helps protect and govern the civil liberties and basic individual rights that a human being can obtain as being a United States citizen. This can help protect you in situations of diplomacy, also more or less in the way of analytics from being a government operative as seen, as I'm going to talk about here shortly, of Edward Snowden. It just helps just protect the basic individual rights of a human, just to basically summarize. So, Edward Snowden brings me to my next point. Edward Snowden is a former NSA analyst and operative working for the federal government, and he was tried and is trying to be tried by the United States government or to be extradited back to the United States because he released several documents from the United States about how we can quote-unquote spy on our allies and also our enemies. In his report, he leaked several classified documents that the United States had and that he had clearance for with himself being an operative. And right now he is seeking asylum in Russia. That's not really going to benefit the United States because of the secrets he can tell their government. But we need to try to extradite him back to the United States so that we can interrogate him and try him as a criminal for releasing and explaining our deepest secrets that our enemies do not need to hear. In his reports, he leaks one of the so-called phone tagging or hacking, if you will, about wiretapping on wireless devices and cell phones. And one of the more surprising issues is like our spying on the Germans, the German chancellor, for an example. And some of these things like that, you don't need to release to our allies because sometimes you don't need to let them know that we're spying on our own friends. But under this act, it just helps question and protect the basic civil liberties that a human can obtain. The ACLU has more or less criticized this act because, in their views, standpoint of more of the more conservative approach to targeting civil liberties is it can violate them, and that's their concern and why they are pledging to work to further exploit with the judicial branch of government and the law enforcement and different branches of government to make sure that this Patriot Act is not being abused or misdoctrined by our federal government because, as we know, that they can seriously abuse their powers. One of the larger bureaucracies that help govern this act, because as we know from basic government concepts that the legislative branch and the judicial branch do not have any type of exercise power to help enforce or govern any type of doctrine or a piece of legislation that is passed through our Congress, that is done through the executive branch of government, which is then distributed through federalism to our bureaucracies. The Department of Homeland Security was established in 2002, shortly after the September 11th attacks here in our own country. And under the Department of Homeland Security, they help to protect these national interests and assets that we obtain. And part of the other bureaucracies that we have under the Department of Homeland Security is the United States Immigration Service, the DEA, the ATF, ICE, the Immigration Service, FEMA, another rapidly emergency program that we use, especially as we can see was more of a less a failure of during Hurricane Katrina because of the uneasiness or uncooperation between the two governments. And more importantly, that we all find at the airport is the the TSA, as we all get our lovely body cavity searches. But with all these different examples of bureaucracies that help and can contain and enforce these laws through the Patriot Act, we can help respond to be more accountable for all the acts under the U.S. Patriot Act. So as I conclude, my thoughts or remedies to help further ratify this bill to more or less change it is I don't know necessarily if I would change it, but I would have more strict scrutiny under the law, because taking more of an extreme interpretation of the Constitution, as to which our forefathers would argue with, would be to more strictly interpret this law in other instances like this with phone hacking or wiretapping, without the use of subpoenas and warrants to acquire evidence and documents that could be posing a threat to the United States government. I believe should be under strict scrutiny and should be questioned and tried, because that is in fact a violation of our unalienable rights given to us under the First Amendment. I'm in favor of our Constitution, and I believe that each individual and American more specifically should be protected and have those rights. So furthermore, to try to conclude this this video speech, the U.S. Patriot Act basically helps protect and give each American citizen a national identity and protect our own interests and assets that can help protect us against the government, to where that we do not feel threatened or more or less violated by them in the ways of our privacy that we have and can obtain as an unalienable right given to us by our forefathers. Thank you.